Imagine you spend your entire life following society's well-worn path. Go to school, get good grades, secure a stable job, work hard, save money, and hope to retire comfortably. This is the formula drilled into us by parents, teachers, and textbooks. Yet all around us, we see people who followed this path end up struggling with debt, worrying about bills, and feeling trapped in a rat race they can't escape. At the same time, a select few seem to play by different rules. They accumulate wealth, own assets that generate income passively, and enjoy the freedom to live life on their own terms. Why is that? What do the wealthy know that the average person doesn't? Why do some people become financially free while others remain stuck, even with higher salaries or better education? This is where Rich Dad, Poor Dad hits like a lightning bolt. Robert Kiyosaki's best-selling book isn't just about money. It's about the mindset that separates the rich from the poor. It dismantles myths we've grown up believing and replaces them with insights so practical and profound that they have changed the lives of millions. What makes this book so unique is the lens through which Kiyosaki shares his lessons, the contrasting philosophies of two father figures. His real father, highly educated, respected in his career, but financially insecure, was his poor dad. Meanwhile, his best friend's father, a high school dropout who built an empire through entrepreneurship and investment, was his rich dad. Through their opposing worldviews, Kiyosaki distills the habits, attitudes, and financial strategies that create lasting wealth. Part 1: The harsh truth about money and why the system keeps you poor. Kiyosaki was just a boy when he began observing the stark contrast between his two dads. Poor Dad, despite his degrees and stable job, constantly advised him to seek security. Rich Dad, though lacking formal education, taught him how money works, why assets matter more than income, and why financial education is the most important education of all. These early lessons stayed with Kiyosaki for life and formed the backbone of the book's core message. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. The first and perhaps most radical lesson that Kiyosaki emphasizes is this: if you want to be rich, you must stop thinking like the poor. Poor Dad believed in working harder to climb the corporate ladder. Rich Dad believed in building the ladder, owning it, and letting others climb it. Kiyosaki writes, "The love of money is not the root of all evil. The lack of money is the root of all evil." He's not glorifying greed, but revealing the harsh truth that financial ignorance is what truly causes stress, limitations, and lifelong insecurity. In a world that punishes financial illiteracy, but never teaches it in schools, this book is the wake-up call we desperately need. Take a look around. In today's economy, job security is an illusion. Inflation eats away at savings, pensions are disappearing, and AI is automating roles faster than universities can update their syllabus. The rules of the game have changed, but most people are still playing by the old ones. That's why Rich Dad, Poor Dad remains more relevant than ever. It's not just a book. It's a financial blueprint that empowers you to take control of your future. Kiyosaki begins with his childhood desire to be rich. He and his best friend Mike wanted to learn how to make money, and Mike's father, the rich dad, agreed to teach them, but not in the way they expected. He gave them jobs at his small stores, paying them a meager wage. When Kiyosaki protested that he was being underpaid and exploited, Rich Dad smiled. "That's how life treats most people," he said. "Life doesn't teach you with words. Life pushes you around. If you learn the lesson, you'll grow. If you resist, you'll quit or become a slave." This powerful moment laid the foundation for a principle that echoes throughout the book. Don't work for money. Learn from every situation. Let money work for you. And so begins Kiyosaki's real education. Not in a classroom, but in the streets, offices, and businesses of the real world. Rich Dad taught him about assets versus liabilities, something so basic yet so misunderstood. He explained that wealthy people buy assets that generate income, real estate, stocks, businesses, intellectual property. The poor and middle class, on the other hand, spend their lives buying liabilities they mistake for assets, cars, fancy homes, gadgets, that drain their money instead of growing it. This one distinction, Kiyosaki insists, is the difference between financial freedom and financial slavery. Let's pause here. In the next part, we'll explore the 6 major lessons Kiyosaki outlines in the book, starting with how the rich don't work for money. These lessons dig deeper into psychology, habits, and real strategies for building wealth. Part 2. Stop working for money. The secret the rich teach their kids. As the story continues, Robert Kiyosaki introduces the first and most crucial lesson. The rich don't work for money. At first, this idea sounds backwards. Isn't working for money the entire point of having a job? But Rich Dad's explanation opens a new perspective. He explains that most people wake up every day driven by 2 emotions: fear and desire. Fear of not having enough money makes them accept jobs they don't love. Then desire kicks in, pushing them to spend that hard-earned money on comforts and status symbols, cars, clothes, the latest tech, creating a cycle of dependency. They end up working harder, earning more, spending more, and staying stuck. Rich Dad calls this the rat race. In contrast, the rich focus not on income, but on building assets. They understand money as a tool, not a goal. Kiyosaki learned that if you only work for a paycheck, you'll never be free. He saw that poor and middle-class people think money solves problems, but often more money just creates more spending. The real solution is to become financially intelligent, to learn how to make money work for you. Rich Dad encouraged young Robert to develop an entrepreneur's mindset, spot opportunities, solve problems, take calculated risks, and most importantly, think long-term. This leads directly into the second lesson. Why teach financial literacy? In schools, we're taught everything except how money works. We learn algebra, literature, and history, but not budgeting, investing, or understanding taxes. Rich Dad believed that financial literacy is the foundation of wealth. And central to that literacy is one simple principle. Know the difference between an asset and a liability. Rich Dad defined assets as things that put money in your pocket, even when you're not working. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. It's that simple. And yet millions of people confuse the two. For example, most people consider their home an asset. But Kiyosaki challenges this. If a house requires mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance, and doesn't generate income, it's a liability. This goes against conventional wisdom, but it's a core truth in the world of wealth building. The rich focus on acquiring real assets, like rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, intellectual property, or businesses that operate without their daily involvement. Kiyosaki emphasizes that building wealth is not about having a high income. It's about keeping your money, investing it wisely, and allowing it to grow through cash-flowing assets. A person earning 1 lakh rupees a month and spending 90,000 rupees is less wealthy than someone earning 40,000 rupees and saving and investing 20,000 rupees smartly. That's why understanding your personal cash flow, your income, expenses, assets, and liabilities is a key habit. Rich Dad had Kiyosaki draw diagrams to visualize his cash flow, something that helped him track how money moved in and out of his life. Over time, he noticed the goal wasn't to earn more income, but to acquire more assets until those assets started producing more income than his job. That's financial freedom. The third lesson, mind your own business, continues this idea. Most people spend their entire lives minding someone else's business, whether it's the company they work for or the government collecting their taxes. Rich Dad taught Kiyosaki to focus on building his own business, even while working for others. That business could be a side hustle, real estate, intellectual property, or investing. The key is not to be dependent on one source of income. Even if you have a job, start building your own asset column. Rich Dad's own story reflects this. Though he started small, he slowly bought real estate and small businesses that produced income. He reinvested his earnings into more assets until he no longer needed a job. That's the ultimate power of compounding. Time and money working together. Kiyosaki shares how he and his wife, Kim, also followed this strategy. They lived frugally, invested aggressively, and slowly built a portfolio of income-generating assets. Over time, their passive income exceeded their living expenses, giving them the freedom to work only when they wanted to. But to build this life, You need discipline, especially when it comes to spending. Which brings us to Lesson 4, the history of taxes and the power of corporations. This chapter reveals one of the greatest financial secrets the rich use to protect and grow their wealth. While the average person earns, gets taxed, and then spends what's left, corporations earn, spend, and are taxed only on what remains. In simple terms, if you're an employee, taxes are taken from your salary before you even touch the money. But if you own a business or corporation, you can use pre-tax money for expenses like travel, training, phones, and meals, all legally. Rich Dad believed the rich don't avoid taxes by breaking rules. They avoid taxes by understanding the rules. This difference is huge. The book dives into how tax systems were originally created to target the wealthy but ended up punishing the middle class. The rich adapted by hiring smart accountants and lawyers and creating legal entities that protect their wealth. It's not about cheating. It's about learning the game and playing it better. This is one of the major reasons financial education matters. It empowers you to use the same tools the rich use. Let's stop here for now. In the next part, we'll explore the final 2 lessons: how the rich invent money and why working to learn not to earn is the ultimate path to mastery and wealth. Part 3, Build Your Own Ladder, the skills that create real wealth. As we dive into the 5th lesson from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the concept becomes even more empowering. The rich invent money. This isn't some metaphor for printing cash. It's about the ability to spot and create opportunities that others don't see. Rich Dad explained to Robert that money isn't scarce. It's simply controlled by those who understand how it works. Most people believe that earning money requires hard work and long hours. But the rich know that creativity and financial intelligence can generate far more wealth than labor alone. When the average person faces a financial problem, their first thought is to tighten the budget or work overtime. The wealthy, on the other hand, ask themselves, how can I create value? How can I use what I know to make this situation work for me? Kiyosaki drives home that the most powerful asset you have is your mind. An educated mind with financial intelligence can generate endless opportunities. He shares real-life examples of how he found undervalued properties, negotiated smart deals, and created profits with minimal investment. Not because he had insider knowledge or luck, but because he had trained himself to see what others couldn't. This lesson is especially important today. With the rise of the internet, digital products, content creation, and side hustles, we live in an era where value can be created instantly with ideas and connections, not just capital. Yet most people are stuck in the employee mindset, waiting for someone else to give them permission to succeed. Kiyosaki doesn't pretend this path is easy. He emphasizes the need for financial education, mentorship, and daily self-improvement. Inventing money requires courage. It means being willing to take calculated risks, face rejection, and fail forward. The average person avoids risk, while the rich learn how to manage and even embrace it. That's why Kiyosaki says, it's not the smart who get ahead, but the bold. He warns that fear and cynicism kill more dreams than actual failure ever will. The world is filled with opportunities, but most people are too scared to grab them. The rich, however, train themselves to think in terms of ROI, return on investment, whether it's time, money, or effort. This leads us into the 6th and final major lesson of the book. Work to learn, don't work for money. This principle completely flips the traditional idea of career planning. Poor Dad believed in specialization. Study hard, get good at one thing, climb the ladder. Rich Dad believed in diversification, not of money, but of skills. He encouraged Robert to work in different departments of his companies, to take on roles in sales, marketing, accounting, management, even if they didn't pay much. The goal wasn't income, it was education. Every skill learned was a tool added to the wealth-building toolbox. Kiyosaki shares how one of the most important decisions he made was to take a job in sales. He didn't like it at first, but learning how to sell and communicate became one of his greatest assets. He realized that it's not enough to have great ideas or products. You need to know how to present them, sell them, and lead people toward your vision. He also emphasizes the importance of systems thinking, understanding how businesses operate as a whole, not just in isolated tasks. Rich Dad wanted him to be a generalist first and a specialist second. That's how leaders and entrepreneurs think. By choosing to work for knowledge and not just money, Kiyosaki gained experience that paid him dividends for the rest of his life. He wasn't focused on promotions or job titles. He was building his foundation of financial intelligence. In contrast, Poor Dad often complained about low pay and unfair treatment, but he never invested in learning how money really works. This lesson is particularly relevant in today's fast-changing world, where industries evolve quickly and adaptability is more valuable than loyalty to one career path. Kiyosaki also offers a powerful reminder about passion. He encourages readers to pursue work that excites them, but warns against the trap of only doing what you love. Sometimes doing what you hate, like learning accounting, reading legal documents, or facing rejection in sales, is exactly what's needed to grow. Passion can be fuel, but financial intelligence is the engine. The combination of both leads to mastery. To wrap up these 6 lessons, Kiyosaki circles back to the main theme. Money is not the goal, freedom is. And freedom comes from knowledge, courage, and the willingness to unlearn what society teaches. The truly rich don't measure wealth by income or possessions, but by time. How many months or years could you live without working? That's the real definition of wealth. And the path to that freedom begins with small daily choices. Reading a financial book instead of binge-watching a show, starting a side hustle instead of just dreaming, investing in your skills instead of spending on liabilities. Kiyosaki's story is not meant to make you feel bad for having a job or struggling financially. It's meant to open your eyes. He himself started with nothing. He faced rejection, failure, and criticism, but he kept learning, applying, and building. Today, his mission is simple: to elevate global financial intelligence. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is just the first step in that journey. In the next part, we'll explore how Kiyosaki applies these lessons in real life, the myths he busts about money, and the specific habits and practices he recommends for building long-term wealth. Part 4. Breaking the chains. The myths that keep the middle class trapped. As we transition from the core lessons to their real-world applications, Robert Kiyosaki begins to dismantle some of the most deeply ingrained myths about money. These are the beliefs that keep the middle class stuck and the poor disempowered. One of the biggest myths he addresses is the idea that you need to be rich to invest, or that investing is risky. According to Rich Dad, the truth is simple. Investing is only risky if you're financially uneducated. Risk doesn't come from the investment. It comes from the investor's lack of knowledge. That's why Kiyosaki keeps hammering the importance of financial education. If you understand how to read numbers, evaluate opportunities, and build cash flow models, then investments become less like gambling and more like calculated moves in a game you've trained for. He also tackles the myth that saving money will make you rich. In fact, he argues, saving can be dangerous in the long term. Inflation slowly eats away at your savings, and banks offer interest rates that barely keep up. Meanwhile, your money is sitting idle, not working for you. Rich people don't just save, they invest. They use their money to acquire assets that produce returns far greater than any bank interest could offer. The poor and middle class are taught to be cautious with money. The rich are taught to be smart with it. This difference between caution and intelligence is where wealth creation begins. Kiyosaki also speaks directly to the fear of losing money. Everyone fears failure, but the financially intelligent learn from their mistakes and become stronger. Rich Dad would say, winners are not afraid of losing, but losers are. Failure is part of the process of success. People who avoid failure also avoid success. This mindset shift is critical. Instead of asking, what if I lose money? The rich ask, what can I learn if I try? Every deal, every setback, every venture, whether successful or not, is seen as a lesson. Rich Dad trained Robert to view failures as tuition in the school of life. The price might be high sometimes, but the return in wisdom, resilience, and clarity is priceless. Beyond the mindset, Kiyosaki dives into practical steps anyone can take to start their journey toward financial independence. First, increase your financial education. This means reading books on money, studying investing strategies, attending seminars, and surrounding yourself with financially savvy people. He emphasizes the need to understand accounting, investing, markets, and the law. These aren't just technical skills, they're the language of wealth. Without them, you're financially mute. With them, you can navigate opportunities others can't even recognize. Second, start small. You don't need lakhs or crores to begin. You just need awareness. Kiyosaki shares how he started investing in small real estate deals with almost no money by using negotiation and creativity. He encourages people to start with what they know, maybe a niche market they understand, a small business idea, or learning how to trade. The important thing is to take action and treat every step as a chance to grow smarter. Another key habit Kiyosaki recommends is building and nurturing your own network. Rich people understand the value of relationships. They collaborate, share ideas, seek mentors, and build teams. The poor often operate in isolation, afraid to ask for help or share their goals. But wealth is rarely built alone. It thrives in connection. Kiyosaki encourages readers to spend time with people who are financially intelligent, who challenge your thinking, and who are moving in the direction you want to go. He also emphasizes emotional discipline. Greed, fear, laziness, arrogance. These emotions are often the real barriers to wealth. For example, many people are afraid to invest because they fear losing. Others are too lazy to learn or too proud to admit what they don't know. Rich Dad taught that mastering your emotions is more important than mastering any spreadsheet. Emotional control allows you to delay gratification. Think clearly under pressure, and stay focused on long-term goals even when short-term storms arise. One of the more surprising pieces of advice Kiyosaki offers is to pay yourself first. This principle is counterintuitive. Most people pay bills, EMIs, taxes, and then save what's left, usually nothing. But Kiyosaki suggests reversing the order. Save and invest first, and then find a way to pay your expenses. This forces creativity and discipline. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, it rewires your financial priorities. You start treating investing as a non-negotiable, not a leftover. He also encourages owning rather than renting. Not just with homes, but with your life. Don't rent your time to an employer forever. Build something that you own. That could mean buying real estate, launching a business, or creating intellectual property like books, courses, or digital products. Ownership is where real wealth lies. Employment might give you security, but ownership gives you leverage. When you own an asset that works while you sleep, you've broken free from the time for money trap. Throughout the book, Kiyosaki warns against financial complacency. The world is changing fast. Jobs are disappearing, economies are shifting, and new industries are being born every year. If you're not growing, you're falling behind. He believes everyone must become a lifelong learner, especially when it comes to money. He urges readers to take control of their future, not by waiting for better job offers, but by developing themselves into better opportunities. Finally, Kiyosaki closes with a challenge. He says, "There is gold everywhere. Most people are not trained to see it. The ideas in Rich Dad, Poor Dad are not magic tricks. They are mind shifts. Once you adopt them, you begin to see the world differently. You stop blaming others and take ownership. You stop working just for money and start building assets. You stop fearing failure and start seeing it as feedback. That shift changes everything." In the next part, we'll look at Kiyosaki's final reflections, how he built his wealth after learning from Rich Dad, and how you can apply these principles today in a world dominated by digital transformation, AI, and global disruption. Part 5. Your Money, Your Freedom. Applying the lessons to build your wealth. As Robert Kiyosaki brings the book to a close, he steps away from lessons and turns toward reflection, pulling together the threads of his personal journey and the reader's possible future. He shares how, after internalizing Rich Dad's principles, he took action, not theoretical action, but real-world experiments that shaped his financial destiny. With minimal money and maximum hunger to learn, he began investing in small real estate deals, learning how to spot undervalued properties, negotiate with confidence, and create win-win situations. He wasn't born rich. He didn't have extraordinary luck. What he had was a mindset forged through lessons, failure, and relentless curiosity. He and his wife Kim committed to a frugal lifestyle, focusing their energy not on increasing expenses or upgrading comfort, but on building their asset column. Every rupee they earned was treated like a soldier, sent out to bring more soldiers back. Over time, this strategy began to bear fruit. As their rental income grew, their dependence on jobs shrank. Eventually, their passive income exceeded their monthly expenses, granting them true financial freedom. They were no longer trading time for money. Instead, their assets, real estate, intellectual property, and businesses were generating income 24/7. Kiyosaki emphasizes that this transformation was not the result of some grand shortcut or hidden formula. It came from practicing the same principles he outlines in the book, principles anyone can apply. But he also acknowledges something powerful. Most people won't. Not because they're incapable, but because they lack the discipline to change their beliefs and habits. Change is uncomfortable, risk is scary, and so people cling to familiar routines, even when those routines are quietly sabotaging their future. To counter this, Kiyosaki urges readers to begin taking small but meaningful steps. He doesn't recommend quitting your job overnight or investing blindly. Instead, he suggests starting with your financial vocabulary, read a book on investing, study how taxes work, learn about balance sheets and cash flow, attend seminars, talk to mentors, start a side hustle, buy a small investment, even if it's just one stock or a tiny property, just to understand the process. These actions won't make you rich overnight, but they'll open a door that most people never walk through. Another core theme that Kiyosaki circles back to is the importance of teaching. He believes that true wealth is not just having money, it's about passing on the mindset that created it. This is why he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad in the first place. His goal was to give every person a glimpse into the kind of financial education most people never receive. He imagines a world where children grow up learning not just math and science, but money skills, where they understand the power of compound interest, the concept of leverage, and the importance of emotional control in financial decisions. He calls on parents, teachers, and leaders to model and teach these principles. He also points out that we live in an era where information is everywhere, but wisdom is still rare. Just because you can Google how to invest doesn't mean you'll do it. The real battle isn't lack of knowledge, it's lack of mindset. That's why he returns again and again to the inner shifts that must happen. Learning to manage fear, cultivating patience, taking responsibility, building confidence, and committing to mastery. Wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in the bank. In the context of today's world, Kiyosaki's message is more urgent than ever. The rise of AI, automation, and digital disruption means that traditional job security is vanishing. Whole industries are changing overnight. The people who thrive in this new world won't necessarily be the smartest or most qualified. They'll be the most adaptable, the most financially literate, and the most courageous. They'll know how to pivot, how to build digital assets, how to monetize knowledge, how to collaborate globally, and how to see opportunity where others see risk. Kiyosaki doesn't claim that becoming rich is easy, but he's adamant that it's possible, and that it's far more a matter of mindset than money. If you begin now, take small steps daily, and dedicate yourself to lifelong learning, you can change your financial destiny. You can build a life where money flows to you, where you are no longer enslaved by debt or trapped by fear. You can live on your own terms. To end the book, Kiyosaki gives a sort of call to arms. He encourages readers not to let the lessons stay in the pages. Knowledge is power, he says, but only if it is applied. Action is everything. You can read hundreds of books and attend dozens of workshops, but until you do something, invest, create, negotiate, learn, you will stay where you are. The real world is the best teacher. It will push you, test you, reward you, and grow you. And as you grow, so will your wealth, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Conclusion. In the end, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not a book about money. It's a book about freedom. It's about choosing a path where your time belongs to you, your energy fuels your dreams, and your work creates assets, not just paychecks. It's about realizing that you don't have to live the same story your parents did. You can write your own, and the pen is in your hands. Thank you for watching. If you like the summary, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to 20-Minute Summaries.